In the morning, a woman got on the elevator. Right behind her, a man with a strange smile followed. He immediately pushed the stop button, then started touching her in a way she didn't want. The woman's name was Alina. She was not only his coworker but also his secret lover. But today, Alina clearly wanted nothing to do with this self-centered and cocky man. She turned around and walked away from him without saying a word. Just then, the man's phone rang. It was his wife. She told him that there was a huge, violent outbreak happening in the streets. At that moment, the lights above flickered and the elevator came to a sudden halt. It was now stuck between two floors. The man, whose name was Claudio and who was the company's finance executive, immediately called security and shouted at him. Guard promised to send help right away, but Claudio waited and waited, and no one came. As a high-ranking executive, he felt his time was too important to waste, so he decided to handle it himself. He used all his strength and finally managed to pull open the inner elevator doors, but the outer wall only opened a small bit. Claudio stuck his head out and yelled for help, but the hallway, which was usually full of people, was completely empty. He tried to squeeze through the small opening, but it was much too narrow. Just then, his wife called again. She said someone was banging hard on their front door. Claudio told her to call the police, but she was panicking and said the emergency line was always busy. Claudio called his friend and begged him to go check on his family. Right after he hung up, he heard a loud noise behind him. A group of people was running for their lives. Among them was Alina, the same woman who had turned away from him earlier. She was screaming for help, trying desperately to get into the elevator. But in the next second, something he couldn't see dragged her away. The hallway went completely silent. Confused and scared, Claudio leaned out again to look closer. Suddenly, two employees who looked deformed charged at him, making loud, wild animal-like sounds. Claudio froze in shock. He had no idea what was happening. Luckily, the two creatures got distracted by a noise down the hall and ran off in that direction. Just as Claudio was trying to calm down, his friend called back. He said the whole city was filled with crazy people and all the roads were blocked. Claudio quickly told him about what had happened in the elevator. His friend couldn't believe it. "Is this a zombie outbreak?" he asked, but before he could finish his sentence, Claudio heard a scream through the phone. It was clear his friend was already dead. Claudio started crying. He felt helpless, terrified, and totally alone. Suddenly, the speaker in the elevator came to life with a static sound. It was the security guard's voice. Claudio grabbed the speaker like it was his only hope and begged to be rescued right away. The guard said a team had been sent and told Claudio to stay where he was. But before he could finish speaking, a terrible scream rang out. Then there was silence. Now Claudio was even more panicked. He realized something very bad was happening outside. Just then, his wife called again. Claudio turned to answer the phone, but in the next second, a hand suddenly reached out from behind him. Claudio turned around in horror. It was Alina, the woman who had just been dragged away, but now she was a mindless zombie. Claudio completely freaked out. He grabbed the handrail with all his strength and started hitting her head over and over until she finally stopped moving. Only then did Claudio realize he had just killed a person. He kept telling himself that she wasn't human anymore, just a monster without a soul. But looking at that face, which he once knew so well, he couldn't help feeling creeped out. So he took the metal rod and pushed Alina's body into a dark corner where he couldn't see her. After cleaning up the mess, Claudio finally sat down and took a deep breath. But then he heard more noise outside. He picked up the metal rod and carefully moved toward the sound. To his surprise, it was the new intern from his company. Claudio struggled to remember her name. Then he gently called out to her. He wanted the two of them to work together and open the elevator door, but no matter how hard they tried, the door wouldn't move. Suddenly, a loud, high-pitched noise came from nearby. The intern panicked. She tried to squeeze into the elevator to hide, but the opening was too small. In the end, she gave up and ran away on her own. Claudio cursed under his breath. The next moment, a zombie came charging at him. It clawed and growled, trying to squeeze inside. Claudio wasn't sure what to do. Should he fight back? Before he could decide, the zombie was suddenly knocked away. It was the intern. She had come back. She was holding a golf club, hitting the zombie like a total hero. Claudio stood there amazed. He never expected the shy intern to be this strong. He was about to tell her how great she was when two more zombies jumped out. The intern was tackled to the ground. Claudio panicked on the side, but there was nothing he could do. Feeling helpless, he took out his phone. The news said the city was in total chaos. The army had already been sent out. Claudio thought about his wife still trapped at home. He was so thankful she was still alive. But the zombies outside her door were getting to be more and more. Then came a few terrible screams. After that silence, Claudio cried. A huge feeling of hopelessness washed over him. Not long after, a man with a beard appeared. It was clear he had just survived a bad fight. When he saw Claudio inside the elevator, he knew it was the perfect place to hide. He pushed with all his might, trying to squeeze in, but Claudio felt numb. He knew it was pointless. That small opening was as good as a huge canyon, and for sure a group of zombies rushed in and ripped the man apart. Claudio let out a sad laugh. People outside wanted in but couldn't get in. He wanted out but couldn't get out. It was the most frustrating feeling in the world. Then a zombie happened to walk by. Claudio made a noise on purpose, grabbed the metal rod and went crazy on it. It was pure rage. Then at the far end of the hallway he heard something. It was the company's vice president. She was being chased by zombies. Claudio shouted as loud as he could, trying to get their attention, but the monsters didn't even notice. They stormed into the vice president's office like a tornado. Claudio watched helpless as his coworkers were torn apart one by one. He sank to the ground, grieving quietly. The overwhelming despair actually made Claudio feel calm. He started looking for answers online. As expected, the news was full of reports about zombies. One reporter was stuck on a chaotic street, begging everyone to stay at home and not go outside because the whole city had already been taken over. In the next second, a group of brutal zombies swarmed her. Suddenly, the lights inside the elevator went out. Claudio looked at the growling zombie outside the door and realized he might soon become one of them. Just as he was about to close his eyes and give up, gunshots echoed from the hallway. Claudio's hope came back. He leaned out to take a look. A fully armed police officer appeared. After making sure Claudio wasn't infected, he started trying to force the elevator door open, but he didn't see a zombie sneaking up behind him. Luckily, he reacted quickly. He turned around and shot it right in the head. The two of them worked together to try to open the elevator, but no matter how hard they tried, the door wouldn't move. The officer said the power needed to be turned back on. He gave Claudio a walkie-talkie and a pistol, explained how to use them, and left for the control room. Once again, the elevator was silent, but this time Claudio wasn't scared. And just as he thought, the hallway lights came back on not long after. The elevator powered up too, but the door still wouldn't open. He noticed a metal piece stuck in the track. He reached for it, but he wasn't tall enough. Suddenly, a zombie lunged at him. Claudio jumped back into the corner. He remembered the pistol the officer had left behind. Clenching his jaw, he pulled the trigger, but it was his first time shooting a gun. His aim was terrible. He took a breath to steady himself and fired again. This time it hit the zombie right between the eyes, but the noise had brought even more zombies. Claudio kept shooting, 1 shot per zombie. Soon all of them were down. He took a deep breath and called the officer on the walkie-talkie, telling him to hurry back. The elevator entrance was clear for now, but then the walkie-talkie made a crackling noise with the officer's scared scream, followed by complete silence. Claudio realized the officer was probably dead too. His hope was once again destroyed. Was he really going to die in this elevator? He checked the pistol. There were still a few bullets left. For a moment, Claudio thought about killing himself. He raised the gun to his head but couldn't pull the trigger. Then more zombies appeared outside the door. Their howls almost sounded like they were laughing cruelly. Claudio decided to die fighting to show he wasn't a coward. Suddenly, he heard a noise above the elevator. To his surprise, the officer wasn't dead. Claudio quickly pulled open the ceiling panel and helped him into the elevator. Seeing the zombies at the door, the officer raised his gun and fired many shots. The hallway went completely silent. After making sure the danger was gone, the officer finally sat down and told Claudio what had happened. In the power room, a group of zombies had ambushed him. At the last second, he crawled into a ventilation duct to get away, but sadly, he was bitten during the escape. He had seen on the news that he would turn into a zombie soon. Claudio was shocked. Where had this virus even come from? The officer shook his head. Maybe it started with animals that had rabies. His team had received orders that morning to get rid of the infected, but just a few hours later, he was the only one left alive. He didn't want to become a mindless monster, so he begged Claudio to end his life for him. But this was the man who had saved Claudio many times. How could he possibly pull the trigger? With no other choice, the officer tried to do it himself, but Claudio grabbed his arm and stopped him. The officer reacted without thinking and punched Claudio. The two men slowly calmed down. The room filled with a heavy silence. Deep down, Claudio still had a little bit of hope. What if the officer didn't turn after all? But after a few hours, the unconscious officer suddenly stood up. He was changing. Claudio's hope disappeared in an instant. He raised the pistol and pulled the trigger. The officer slowly fell to the ground. The gunshot echoed through the building. In the distance, zombies began rushing in from all directions. Claudio was out of bullets. He picked up the officer's shotgun, but he didn't expect the force. The recoil hit him hard, knocking him out cold. When he finally woke up, everything was quiet again. Suddenly, the phone rang. It was his wife. Claudio started crying. It was the first good news he had had all day. She told him the rescue team had found her and taken her to a safe shelter. Claudio wanted to say more, but his phone died. Still, a spark of hope returned to his heart. He picked up a metal rod from the floor, pushed it deep into the elevator track, and twisted hard. The stuck metal piece popped loose. Finally, Claudio could open the elevator doors. Once he saw the opening was wide enough, he didn't hesitate. He climbed out, stared at the mountain of bodies in front of him, many of them faces he once knew. Pushing down the fear in his chest, he moved forward with heavy steps. The company lobby wasn't any better. One zombie was still barely alive. Claudio didn't hesitate. He stomped it down with one strong kick. After 8 hours of being trapped in that elevator, he felt like a new man. Limping, Claudio made his way out of the building. The streets were filled with bodies scattered everywhere. It looked like he was the last man alive in the whole city. He saw a bottle of milk on the ground. Just as he picked it up, a zombie suddenly jumped out from the side. Claudio froze in fear, but before the zombie could touch him, a bullet flew right into its head. It was a sniper, a military one standing up high. Claudio was finally safe. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you like the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.